to know what I think. Well, surprise, surprise. She's a real sweetheart. I'll give you that, Alex. You pick nice girlfriends. She's a good one. No pressure, I warned her as I set dirty dishes in the sink and turned on the hot water. Why would I do that? I've learned my lesson with you. Then Nana started to laugh again. She seemed like her old self again. She'd gotten a clean bill of health from her doctor, or so she said. I went back to the dining room to clear away the rest of the dishes, but I couldn't resist taking a quick peek out the front window to check on Jamila and the kids. They were out in the street, tossing around Damon's football. The three of them were laughing. I also noticed that Jamila had a real good arm, through a tight spiral. She was used to playing with the boys, wasn't she? Chapter 34. Jamila was staying in the bedroom at the top of the stairs, the room we always kept for special guests, presidents, queens, prime ministers, and the like. The kids thought we were doing it for appearances, and we would have, but the unvarnished truth was, Jam and I had never been together that way, had never even kissed before the airport reunion. Jamila was here to find out if things should go any further between the two of us. She came in through the back door of the kitchen while I was finishing up the dishes. The kids were still playing outside, and Nana was straightening up God knows what upstairs. Probably the guest room, but maybe the hall bathroom. Or the linen closet. I can't stand it, I finally said. What? She asked. What's wrong? You really want to know? Of course I do. We're buddies, right? I didn't answer, but I grabbed hold of Jamila's shoulders and kissed her on the mouth. Then I kissed her again. I was keeping an eye peeled for the kids. And Nana, of course. And Rosie, our cat, who was a big gossip, too. Jamila started to laugh. They all think we're doing a lot worse than this. The kids, your grandmother, even that nosy cat. Thinking is different from knowing, I said. I like your family a lot, Jamila said as she stared into my eyes. I even like the cat. Hiya there, Rosie. You gonna tell everybody about our kisses? I like you, I said as I held Jamila in my arms. A lot? She asked as she pulled away. You better like me a lot after I came all the way here from San Francisco. God, I hate plane rides these days. Maybe I do like you a lot. I don't see you saying too much. Not a lot of reciprocation going on here. She grabbed me again and kissed me harder. She pressed into me, and then Jamila slid her tongue into my mouth. I liked that. A lot. I was starting to respond in kind, which probably wasn't a fantastic idea in the kitchen. Get a room, said a voice behind us. Nana was there, but she was laughing. Let me call in the kids. I want them to see this too, she said. Let me get my Instamatic camera. She's fooling with us, I told Jam. I know, she said. Heck I am, said Nana. I'm rooting for Alex to get to third base. She was cackling like a cartoon crow again. Chapter 35. I woke up alone in bed the next morning with the sheets thrown every which way around my body. I was kind of used to the feeling, but I didn't like it any more than I ever had, especially with Jamila sleeping just down the hallway in the spare bedroom. I lay in bed for a few minutes thinking about other people who wake up feeling alone, even though some of them share a bed with somebody else. I finally slid into some loose-fitting clothes, then tiptoed down the hall to check on Jamila. I tapped lightly on the door. I'm awake. Come in, I heard her say. It was a nice sound, her voice, musical, sweet. I pushed against the door and it opened with a soft whine. Morning, Alex. I slept great, Jamila said. She was sitting up in bed wearing a white T-shirt with SFPD in black printed on it. She started to laugh. Sexy, huh? Actually, yeah. Detectives can be sexy. Samuel L. Jackson in Shaft, Pam Grier in Foxy Brown, Jamila Hughes in the guest bedroom. She whispered, "Come over here, you. Just for a minute. Come here, Alex. That's an order." I went forward, and Jamila reached out her arms, and I slid into them as though I belonged there. Kind of nice. "Where were you when I needed you last night?" I asked her. "I was right here in the guest room." She smiled and winked. "Listen, I don't want your kids to get the wrong idea either, but, I cocked an eyebrow. "But?" I asked. "But what?" "Just, but. I'll leave the rest up to you." As we were finishing breakfast, in the kitchen, without the cloth napkins, I told Nana and the kids that Jamila and I were going to tour Washington for the rest of the day. We needed a little time to ourselves. The kids just nodded over their cereal bowls. They'd been expecting as much. "I won't expect you two home for supper then," Nana said. "Is that right?" "That's right," I said. "We'll catch a meal in town." "Mm-hmm," Nana said. "Mm-hmm," said the kids. I drove about 4 miles from the house on 5th. I pulled up to 2020 O Street and stopped the car. Some people might have trouble finding the place, or even any information about the mansion on O Street. There's no sign hanging outside, no indication that it isn't a private residence. Most guests come to the mansion by word of mouth. I happen to know the owner through friends at Kincaid's restaurant in Foggy Bottom. Jamila and I went inside, where I registered, and then we were brought upstairs to the log cabin room. Along the way, just about every surface, corner, cranny, and crevice was filled with antique puppets, lithographs, jewelry in glass cases. We took it all in, silently. A strange thing happened to me on our way upstairs. I had the thought, here I go again. It almost caused me to stop walking and head back to the car. But something inside told me not to give up, not to shut feelings out, to put my trust in Jamila. Neither of us said a word, until the bellman was gone. Chapter 36. "Wow, I could get used to this in a hurry," Jamila whispered, when we were alone in the room. "Let's explore this place. It's beautiful. Perfect, Alex. Almost too nice." And so we explored. The log cabin room was an amazing 2 stories that even included a sauna jacuzzi. The loft was reached by spiral stairs and had a full kitchen. The walls and floors were wood-paneled to suggest the simply hewn tongue-and-groove design of a cabin. A rough-cut stone-framed fireplace was there to keep everything cozy. There was also an aquarium. Jamila did a quick, gleeful dance. She obviously approved, and so did I, mainly because she was happy. It sure was a whole lot better than the front seats of cars where we'd spent so many hours together during surveillance details in New Orleans. As we checked out the suite, we were exploring each other a little, too. We stopped to kiss, and I discovered once again that Jamila had the sweetest tasting mouth. We held each other and danced in place a bit. We kissed some more, and my head began to feel light. I was still nervous, and I couldn't quite figure out why. Jamila slowly unbuttoned my denim shirt, and I helped her loosen and then slip out of a cream-colored silk blouse. Under her shirt, she wore a plain, thin silver chain. Very simple and lovely. Her hands gently unfastened my belt, then loosened my pants. I helped her out of her leather ones. "Such a gentleman," she said. Somewhere along the way, I kicked off my shoes, and she did the same with her sandals. Which finally, somehow, brought the two of us to the centerpiece of the suite, a king-size bed. "I like this," she whispered against my cheek. "Nicest bed I ever saw." The bed was definitely the visual focus of the room. It had 4 wooden columns suggesting a canopy bed, but without the frills. It was covered with a flannelly comforter and half a dozen throw pillows, which we immediately tossed onto the floor. The room looked even better, a little messed up. "Music?" Jamila asked. "Be nice," I said. "You pick something." She switched on the CD player and found WPFW 89.3. Nina Simone's "Wild as the Wind" was playing. "Our song. From now on," she said. Jamila and I kissed again, and her mouth was soft. I was happy to see that the homicide inspector had a gentle side. Her lips continued to press into mine, and I felt myself melting. Maybe that was why I was afraid. Here I go again. "I never hurt you," she whispered, as if she knew my thoughts. "You don't have to be afraid. Just don't hurt me, Alex." "I won't." A few minutes later, we were dancing to "Just the Two of Us," and I folded Jam in real close. This was good. She was strong, but she knew how to be tender. Another detective. How about that? We moved well together. My lips brushed the top of her shoulders, then the hollow in her throat, and just lingered. "Bite me there. Just a little," she whispered. I nipped her gently, slowly. I didn't want to hurry any of this. The first time with someone wasn't like any other. Not always the best, though sometimes, but always different, exciting, mysterious. Jamila reminded me of my dead wife, Maria, and I thought that that was a good thing. She was tough on the outside, a city girl, but she could be tender and sweet. The contrast was special and dramatic enough to give me goosebumps. I could feel her breasts touch my chest. Then her whole body was pressing into me. Our kisses became deeper and more passionate and lasted longer. I undid her bra and it slipped to the floor. Then I slid off her panties and she pulled down my shorts. We stood there and looked at each other for a long time, appraising, admiring, I guess, building up anticipation and passion and whatever else was going on between us. I wanted Jamila badly now, but I waited. We waited. "Disappointed?" She whispered so low that I almost couldn't hear what she said. Her question threw me a little. God, no. Why should I be? Who could be disappointed with you? She didn't say anything, but I thought I knew who she was talking about. Her ex-husband had said things that had hurt her. I pulled Jamila to me and her body felt hot all over. She was trembling. We slid down on the bed and she rolled on top of me. She kissed my cheeks, then my lips. "You sure you're not disappointed?" "Definitely not disappointed," I said. "You're beautiful, Jamila. In your eyes." "Okay. In my eyes, you're beautiful." I raised my head to her breasts, and she lowered herself to me. I kissed one, then the other, playing no favorites. Her breasts were small, just right. In my eyes. I continued to be amazed that Jamila didn't seem to know that she was attractive. I knew it was a terrible thing that happened to some women and some men, too. I lay my head down and looked at her face, studied it some. I kissed her nose, her cheeks. She was smiling in a way I'd never seen before, open and relaxed, beginning to trust, which I loved to see. I felt that I could stare into her deep brown eyes forever. I eased myself inside Jamila, and I had a thought that this was just about perfect. I had been right to trust her. Then I had another thought that I hated. What will spoil it this time? Chapter 37. Jamila started to laugh, and then she said, "Phew!" She ran her hand over her forehead. "What's phew?" I asked her. "Don't tell me you're tuckered out. You look in a lot better shape than that." "Phew, I was worried about the